Asking the wrong questions to distressed homeowners not only cost you as the real estate agent time and money, but it can actually leave your sellers homeless. Remember, distressed homeowners do not have a ton of time and they're struggling. In most cases, you're the last line of defense. So please understand that if you're a real estate agent working with distressed homeowners, you must ask the following questions. And make sure to stay to the end because I have a way for you to never miss any of these crucial questions again. Hey, it's Heather Keller. Thank you for visiting my channel, Blueprint Short Sales. Let's dive right in. 10 crucial questions to ask your sellers always. Question number 10. What is your name, address, phone, and email? Now that may sound simple, but when you get these calls, there is a lot of moving parts, a lot is going on. So this is question number 10. You should always jot down their name, their address, and their best contact information because it may be a no right now, depending on where they're at in the foreclosure process, but it's probably not always going to be a no. And so follow up is key. So number 10, name, address, phone number, and email. Question number 9. How far behind on mortgage payments and do you have an auction date? So a lot of times these sellers don't know how far behind they are. They might have a general idea, but if you ask them if they have an auction date and they say no, well, they're probably not as far into the foreclosure process if they do have an auction date. If they have an auction date, they're at the very end of the foreclosure process. Options available to them will be slim. So it is a good idea to understand where they're at in the foreclosure process. Question number 8. How many mortgages on your property? So why do we ask this? This is a good question because you want to know, are you dealing with one mortgage, 2 mortgages? In some cases, since my career began in 2007, I have done short sales with 3 mortgages. 1 mortgage is fairly easy. The more mortgages you have, the more difficult it is. Again, a lot of moving parts, but you do want to understand what is on title. And so by asking how many mortgages, you can determine, is there 1, 2, sometimes 3. So a very, very good, crucial question to ask your sellers. Question number 7. Who is the servicer and or lender? So if you've watched my videos before, I actually use bank, lender, servicer. It's all the same thing in my world. So it is good to understand who the servicer is because if this is a short sale, you will be working directly with that servicer. So is it SPS? Is it Chase? It could be hundreds of different servicers, but it's good to know who it is, mainly because every servicer does process that short sale a little bit differently. So definitely ask who the servicer is because that's going to help you come up with a game plan later on in this process. All right, question number 6. Approximately how much is owed on your mortgage? Now this is approximate. My biggest tip is if you do take on this particular deal or any deals, order a payoff statement so you can know the exact amount. A lot of times it's a lot more than what they actually think because there are fees involved when they are in the foreclosure. But it's a good idea to understand an approximate amount because at the beginning of this process, when you're asking these questions, you do want to determine, is this going to be a short sale or is it going to be an equity sale? All right, question number 5. Have you filed a bankruptcy? So if the question is no, great. If the question is yes, then you do want to ask, is it a Chapter 7 or a Chapter 13? That is crucial to understand because if they do have a property and it's in a Chapter 7 or 13, it is going to be done a little bit different depending on which bankruptcy. We will touch on the whole bankruptcy aspect in later videos, but please understand number 5 is, has your sellers filed a bankruptcy? If the answer is yes, you do want to find out if it's a 7 or a 13. Question number 4. Are there any other liens and or judgments on the property that you're aware of? Why is this important? This is important because you want to try to make this process as smooth as possible and review the title commitment. You want to know what exactly is on the title of the property. 1 mortgage, 2 mortgages. Oh, there's an IRS tax lien or a state tax lien. You want to understand the liens and judgments because not all of them you're going to be able to negotiate. The banks actually don't pay for liens or judgments to be removed. A first mortgage will pay a certain amount to the second, but if there's liens or judgments, in most cases you're going to have to deal with those outside of the closing, and we'll talk more of that in a later video. Quickly, IRS tax liens, if you have that on the title of the property or a state tax lien, that is actually okay. There are ways to negotiate that off. Again, also will be discussed in another video, but IRS tax liens, don't run from that. It can be released from the property, but not the person individually. Question number 3. Do you have an HOA? HOA stands for Homeowners Association. This is important to ask because you want to make sure that the HOA is current. So is the HOA yearly? Is it monthly? Is it current? Is it not current? If it's not current, how far behind are they? If they are current, encourage your sellers to remain current with the HOA. My experience dealing with the HOA is worse than actually dealing with the mortgage servicer. So if they do have an HOA and it's current, encourage them to stay current. If they're not current, then you need to find out a bunch of different stuff. Mainly, how far behind are they? And the bank, again, doesn't always pay for that amount. So that it gets a little bit tricky for number 3. Number 2, tell us your story and why you fell behind. This is so crucial. Number 2, again, is tell me your story and why you fell behind. You want to understand everything. Just listen. Let them tell you their entire story because it's going to allow you to plead their case with the bank. You're the one that's going to come in and list the property, help with the short sale negotiations if your state allows it, and you want to understand their full story in its entirety. Okay, so make sure you understand what's going on, take notes. Eventually, your seller is going to have to write this in a hardship letter. So the more you know, the better the deal is going to be moving forward. All right, before we get to the number 1 crucial question you should be asking your sellers up front, be sure to subscribe to my channel, like this video, and comment below. You can also connect with us. If you look in the description, there are ways to connect. We have free groups that you can join. Lots of valuable information. All right. Number 1, the number 1 crucial question you should ask these sellers are, what is your goal? Now, that may sound silly, but it's so important in the world of distressed sales. Does your seller want to keep the property? Does your seller want to sell the property? So important, okay? So what is your goal in this situation, Mr. and Mrs. Seller? You want to ask that, you want to understand, because if they are ready now, then you can proceed with the next steps. If your sellers are not ready, it's a no right now, but it's probably not going to be a no forever. And so you do want to put them on a follow-up plan. But this is the number 1 question you should be asking your sellers. What is your goal in this situation? Sellers, they can be in denial, so you want to make sure that you can help through that and really understand their situation, but ultimately have that goal in mind because it's really going to help you build that rapport with them. All right, now for the way to never miss these questions again, I want to give you my personal checklist that I and my hundreds of agents use on all of their thousands of listing appointments. All you have to do is comment checklist and I will send it to you. All right. So again, comment checklist and I will send my personal checklist to you. So until we meet again, continue your hustle. Hopefully you leave this video feeling inspired and motivated to take on the world of distressed sales. Again, this is Heather Keller with Blueprint Short Sales. See you again soon.